Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into a massive collision between human intention and machine execution. We're going to literally descend right down to the metal to unpack the invisible forces that define our digital and really our physical realities. Specifically, we're zeroing in on the metagit CLI and this fascinating concept called the record of sweat. To kick things off, we really have to confront this massive crisis of opacity we're living in and ask ourselves a totally fundamental question about our modern tools. Who is actually controlling the physics of the machine? Like, are we actively steering the computational power of our world, or have we just quietly handed our overarching agency over to these black boxes that merely guess at reality?
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the automated miasma crisis, then compare the FPU gambler to the ALU surveyor. After that, we'll look at the metagit CLI solution, what it means to wield the divine script, the true record of sweat, and finally, reclaiming sovereign control.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the automated miasma crisis, and how we're losing the chain of title.
Right now, we're operating in this foggy, unreliable ecosystem where true provenance, the actual original source of an action or a piece of data, is deliberately obscured by layers of abstraction. Let's look at a recent Los Angeles political operation as a completely impartial case study. Look at this nested legal structure. You start with a 501c3 for public education, which feeds into a 501c4 for issue advocacy, which then feeds into another 501c4 that is legally exempted from reporting. Now, we are absolutely not taking political sides here. We're just objectively looking at the architecture of a black box. It's a highly sophisticated machine expressly designed to completely hide the original intent from the public.
And this right here perfectly illustrates our broader societal crisis. When hidden networks and completely opaque systems mask the source, the original chain of title is just liquidated. Whether we're talking about dark money in politics or entirely untraceable data sitting in some corporate server farm, when you rely on a black box, you literally lose the ability to verify truth. You're left wandering in what the sources call an automated miasma.
Moving on to Section 2, FPU gambler versus ALU surveyor, the hardware root.
This is where it gets crazy. This exact same crisis of lost provenance is happening at the microscopic level, right inside our computers. It's a devastating hardware reality. The black box isn't just a societal problem. It is baked straight into the silicon. Get this, a staggering 80 to 90% of modern AI compute cycles aren't actually exact mathematics. When your favorite modern language models are doing their heavy lifting, the physical engine driving them isn't calculating absolute ground truth reality. It's basically just making highly educated guesses so it can process mountains of data incredibly fast. And the crucial takeaway here is that this lack of mathematical precision causes something called non-deterministic drift. Chip manufacturers literally burn these completely secret proprietary seed tables right into the physical silicon to help the processor guess the math. It essentially acts like a giant blender. You might know exactly what source data you tossed in, but there is absolutely no way you can reverse engineer that resulting smoothie back into the exact original ingredients. The chain of title is completely obliterated.
So, we are faced with this stark hardware divide right inside the computer's brain. On one side, you have the floating point unit, what we can call the FPU gambler. Sure, it's fast, but it's lossy. It's basically frantically throwing darts at a board using those secret seed tables. But on the exact opposite side, we have the arithmetic logic unit, the ALU surveyor. And this thing is strictly deterministic. Think of it like a surveyor out in the field with a precision laser. 1 + 1 equals exactly 2 every single time on every single machine on planet Earth. Let's move to Section 3, the metagit CLI solution, and how we strip away the blow.
Okay, so if we want to fight through this cloud's probabilistic miasma and totally bypass that wildly guessing FPU gambler, we have to ditch the interfaces we use every single day. Modern graphical user interfaces, GUIs, are just incredibly heavy. They chew up massive amounts of computational power just to render visual illusions like drop shadows, and they honestly dumb down our expressions into these fragile, shiny little buttons. But the metagit command line interface, or CLI, is a total game changer. It gives you a streamlined, incredibly lightweight, unmediated path straight to the hardware. It generates 100% exact, lossless text logs.
You can really think of it as an agentic typewriter. This metagit CLI functions as this native bridge that captures your exact intent with zero visual mistranslation. There are no clunky drop-down menus to click through, no fragile, screen-scraping automations that completely break if a single pixel shifts on your screen. It is just pure, undeniable digital truth generated keystroke by keystroke. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, wielding the divine script, the semiotic bridge.
Now that we have our agentic typewriter, how do we actually bridge the gap between our messy associative human minds and the cold logic gates of the machine? Well, it's a three-step process. Step 1, your intent starts out entirely abstract, right up in your warm, fluid human mind. Step 2, you formalize that thought into explicit, strictly formatted text, like JSON or Python. We call this the divine script. And finally, Step 3, that exact text triggers flawless, undeniable physical ALU execution right there in the silicon.
I absolutely love how this quote exposes the pure magic of that interface. We are quite literally tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text. I mean, wow, there is no magic ghost in the machine here. It is just raw physical silicon rocks, electrical voltage acting as lightning, and the explicit deterministic text script that you write to force the machine's hand.
All right, Section 5, the true record of sweat, anchoring digital truth.
So actually writing this deterministic script requires intense, very deliberate labor. You're out there actively overriding the AI's continuous guesswork, pruning the substrate yourself. But that raises a massive question. How do we actually mathematically prove that a sovereign human piloted the machine and put in real biological effort? Like, how do we prove it wasn't just some automated AI hallucinating off in the cloud?
Fascinatingly, scientists are literally tackling this verification problem right now in the real world. Researchers can actually measure real physical exertion using these disposable paper-based microfluidic chips that you place right on the forehead and forearms. These little chips capture eccrine gland sweat rates, recording actual metabolic heat loss when you're under physical load. So we are getting a literal physical record of human effort, capturing the spatial variability of sweat all across the body. It's wild. And when we map that to the digital realm, we get this concept called the record of sweat. It's basically a modern revival of the historic sweat of the brow copyright doctrine. It functions as cryptographic mathematical proof that permanently anchors the bit-perfect truth that real, physical human effort, your actual metabolic energy and intense focus, was spent to execute a digital mission. It acts as this undeniable anchor that stops our work in institutions from becoming completely virtualized.
To really put this into perspective, let's look at a recent verified digital strike that recorded exactly 55.5 million tokens of metabolic flux. The human pilot wielded the Metagit CLI to orchestrate a highly specific sequence of AI agents, carefully mapping their intent onto reality. Those 55.5 million tokens, they stand as a literal monument to modern human orchestration, proving out at the very leaf nodes of the network that a sovereign biological pilot was undeniably at the wheel.
Which leads us to our final section, Section 6, reclaiming sovereign digital control. Ultimately, this whole explainer isn't just about hardware architecture or literal sweat. It's really about reclaiming your overarching agency from the opaque black boxes of modern technology. True authorship demands this beautiful philosophical concept known as haesiety. That's the absolute, undeniable, irreversible uniqueness of a sovereign physical action in time. It means you, a specific human, executed a specific command at a highly specific moment. You didn't just let some probabilistic algorithm passively guess at reality in the cloud. You stepped up and actively steered the truth.
As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. In a world that is increasingly dominated by this automated miasma, by completely opaque political machines, wildly guessing EPU processors, and AI hallucinations, will you actively embrace the sweat of the brow to manually steer the truth? Or are you going to settle for a mere facsimile of intelligence and let the black box dictate your reality? The choice of how you ride into the digital expanse is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep exploring.